order. And therefore, this is probably where our main disagreement would come, make our conversation interesting, is that I do believe that Jefferson was giving a charter for the freedom of the secular to be secular. I don't mean secularistic, I don't mean secularism, I don't mean secular in the sense that it has the answer and closes off all the rest. Secular simply means of the age. It means you don't necessarily have to haul in the beautiful of the transcendent order with which Dr. Nasr began his talk tonight. But it does give a charter for the understanding of letting things be what they are and a more stimulating environment if you have Turks, Jews, and infidels alongside the Orthodox Christians who were the main drafters of this article. So I think we have a good field with which to work, and oh, how I wish that we could get this message across to the larger public, which has it all figured out that every Muslim they've ever heard of is out to suppress everybody else, and the headlines of that become the preoccupying headlines, so you can hardly get a conversation going about the alternatives to it. So I'm privileged tonight to be a partner in this conversation because I think it does give more of us an image of the alternatives that the Islamic world, Islamic theology, Islamic revelation can bring to the hearts and minds and souls and consciences and wills of the American people so many years later. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to invite our two conversationalists to ask each other questions, and if you don't have any questions, I have a few. You want me to start?
One comment on what Dr. Marty said, which is very important. I really didn't get to it, unfortunately.
Can't hear.
Your microphone
Is it on?
is it on?
Rachel!
There it goes. You're on now.
The cathedral, the natural acoustics would not require this darn thing, but we are. Very quickly, he alluded to a point, of course, they don't have time to elaborate on it either, but I need to say that in Islam, it is a duty of a Muslim, if the government, in fact, does not allow him to practice his religion and to give freedom for to practice religion, to oppose the government. And also, when there's injustice, and all the rebellions that have taken place in Islamic history have always been defended theologically also by certain people. All the political, ethnic, all kinds of other forces usually there are behind such things, but there's always a theological reason given, of which the last was the Iran Revolution of 1979, in which there were many, many very complicated social and political and economic factors, but the reason was given was a theological one that was given that aroused the people. And this is something which is not at all absent in Islamic history, and I think Jefferson wouldn't approve of that. That one should not simply surrender to tyranny in the name that the tyrannical ruler is ruling in the name of religion or something like that. And the Islamic tradition is very rich in this, and it's also a very, very sensitive issue at the present moment in the Islamic world. In countries like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, places like that, all that you had to say really rings a bell in a contemporary way in the Islamic world also.
My little follow-up question, because we're going to get back to work then. Do you agree or disagree that Jefferson's word Turk, Jew, and infidel will fit into your scheme? Will the infidel fit there? Let's say the infidel is responsible, but the larger public that he's dealing with believe the infidel didn't belong.
You know, I think the term infidel here is somewhat problematic because, of course, outside of the writings of Jefferson, the infidel were oftentimes the Turks themselves were referred to as infidels, and non-Christians in general. I think he, on purpose, he separates the Turks, which means Muslims and Jews, Abrahamic people, and perhaps infidels, even people who are in other religions, you know, Buddhism, Hinduism, the rest of Asia, America, were just becoming aware of China, other places. It might be that, and also, and more importantly, it might also really refer to secular people in the modern sense who don't believe in anything. That's a very significant phrase that you brought up, especially with this rise of Islamophobia right now in America. It's a very, very important statement.
In later writings, Jefferson did add more religions. He says the Hindu and several others. So he really is trying to stretch to the point of the person who, now you and I, most people in theology will say, many of the most religious people I know are atheists because they got it all figured out and they're really passionate about it. They'll die for it. They'll do all the things the religious people are supposed to do. But it's not fair to the atheists to put a label on them that's uncongenial. They're trying to be distant from it. So there are people, many people, agnostic, who have very strong passion for civil rights and for their rights. Anytime you and I are working for the rights of somebody, we know that alongside the Jews and the Christians and the Muslims, there are going to be people of, Jefferson would have called infidel, who had a hard time having their rights, and a lot of them claim today. I think you ask American people, would you ever vote for an atheist? 80 to 90% say no. Now that doesn't make it a matter of legality, it means a matter of passion. But I think it does show that he really was trying to find the scheme for everybody to, you're right, to be responsible. He's not trying to get non-law. And I like your writings on responsibility. It's really a strong category, which I wish more people would learn from you. Would I like you, Mary Beth, say something mean?
Well, I would pose to both of you a proposition here that Thomas Jefferson may sound to Muslims like a person who stresses reason and understands free will. But in his later writings, Jefferson wrote a version of the New Testament in which he erased, literally expunged all of the miracles of Jesus and the divinity of Jesus, which many Muslims would probably look at the second part and say, but the divinity of Jesus, of course, that's ridiculous. But the miracles or the notion of God in the Christian New Testament gives Christians ammunition to not like Thomas Jefferson. And I'd just like both of you to reflect on the idea that Jefferson's argument with religion tended to do more with the idea of having to rely on revealed texts. That Jefferson was deeply suspicious of revealed texts, and that would include the Hebrew Bible, the Christian New Testament, and the Quran.
Well, the two key words for Jefferson and Franklin and all the others, their opposition was to priestcraft and superstition. Priestcraft meant, in your word, ecclesiastical authority that looked out for itself. And superstition was revealed religion with all the miracles. I taught a course once in a Jefferson book, and I mentioned last night to some people that while in the White House, Jefferson put down in English, French, Greek, and Latin New Testament Gospels, got his scissors out and cut out every miracle, every reference. I taught a course on this, and he slipped in one of the parables. It slipped by. But otherwise, he was absolutely efficient on getting it out there. It was not that he hated Jesus. The book is called The Life and Morals of Jesus of Nazareth. He wanted to present it forward. But he was very systematic. I think the difference between Jefferson and some of the others was, I think in our conversation today, you mentioned Thomas Paine, who was very radical on this.
Yes.
But my favorite is Benjamin Franklin, who was witty and humorous and beguiling and all the rest. And when he was 82 years old, a very good year, he was president of Yale, and he was the president of Yale asked him, "What is your belief in the divinity of Jesus?" Franklin said, "Well, I was brought up in the Presbyterian persuasion, but Sunday being my day of study, I do not frequent it." And then he gave a kind of what was called the Deist Creed. I believe there is a God. I believe that we are all held responsible. I believe there will be rewards or punishments now or in the life to come. As for the divinity of Jesus, that metaphysical proposition, he said, I observe that some people who believe in the divinity of Jesus are very good people, and some are not. And some people who don't believe in the divinity of Jesus are very good people, and some are not. And therefore, I can only say that to find out the truth or falsehood of that proposition, I'm a very old man.